welcome back, and we are going next already. It is time for some Ramus.
Ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Lore of
As far as I understand, though, Ramus doesn't really talk, right? He just does.
League of Legends. Over the next two
Or does he
episodes,
talk in the
we're going to
game?
be finishing off the last champion centered around Shuriman lore before beginning the Bloodline story. So, without further ado, I present to you the updated lore of Ramus, the Armadillo. Enjoy.
Armadillo.
Some believe Ramus is an ascended being, an ancient god amongst men who rolls to Shurima's aid as an armored guardian in its time of need. Superstitious folks swear he is a harbinger of change, appearing when the land is on the verge of a great shift of power. Others speculate he is the last of a dying species that roamed the land before the Rune Wars sundered the desert with uncontrolled magic. With so many rumours of great power, magic and mystery surrounding him, Ramus compels many Shurimans to seek his wisdom. Soothsayers, priests and deranged lunatics alike claim to know where Ramus dwells, but the Armadillo has proved elusive. Despite this, proof of his presence predates living memory, with crumbling mosaics depicting his image on the most ancient walls of Shuriman ruins. His likeness adorns colossal stone monuments made in the early days of Ascension, leading some to believe he is no less than an immortal demigod. Skeptics often point to a simpler explanation, that Ramus is just one of many such creatures. It is said that he appears only to worthy pilgrims in great need of his aid, and those blessed by his presence experience great turning points. After the Armadillo rescued the heir to a vast kingdom from
This is actually like a bunch of Ramuses, and it's like they're all called Ramus. It's like whenever like something happens, Ramus shows up. So like, maybe it's not the same Ramus. Maybe that's the case.
a terrible fire, the man renounced his position to become a goat farmer. An elderly mason was inspired by a profound yet brief conversation with Ramus, and constructed an enormous marketplace which became the bustling heart of Nashrame. Knowing Ramus's guidance can pave an enlightened path, devout believers perform elaborate rituals designed to attract the favour of their deity. Disciples of the cult devoted to Ramus demonstrate their unwavering faith in a yearly ceremony by imitating his famous roll and somersaulting through the city in droves. Each year, thousands of Shurimans trek through the most treacherous and remote corners of the desert on a quest to find Ramus, for many teachings indicate he will answer a single question of those he finds deserving, if they are able to find him. Knowing his enthusiasm for desert treats, the pilgrims arm themselves with offerings thought to attract his blessing, packing their mules with flasks of sweet goat's milk, chests filled with colonies of ants sealed in wax, and jars of honeycombs. Many never return from the deep desert, and fewer still with stories of the demigod, though travellers describe waking to find their packs mysteriously emptied of all edible provisions. Whether he is truly a wise oracle, ascended deity, or a mighty beast, Ramus is known for his miraculous feats of endurance.
Ramus is
He entered the impenetrable fortress of Sirim, an imposing bastion designed by a crazed sorcerer. The structure was said to contain untold magical horrors, fearsome beasts mutated beyond recognition, corridors wreathed in flames, impenetrable tunnels guarded by shadow demons. Not an hour had passed when the enormous fortress...
Seems like he's just defender of the weak kind of thing. He defends those who can defend themselves, right? So for example, this case with the tower of sorcery where there's like a bunch of like animals or whatever imprisoned and being experimented on or whatever they were doing there. Those animals can't defend themselves, they're behind the cage, so he goes and destroys them.
Collapsed in a plume of dust, and Ramus was seen rolling away.
Sorry, it doesn't destroy them, destroys the tower.
Ramus entered the darkened gate, nor what secrets he learned within the basalt walls of the fortress. In the year of the Great Flood, he crossed the vast lake of Imali in just 2 days, and dug many miles deep to destroy a giant anthill and kill its queen, whose daughters had devastated the nearby farmland.
Here again, farmland, like farmers can't defend against like those insects and shit.
Sometimes he appears as a benevolent hero when invading Noxian warbands attacked a northern Shuriman settlement. Disparate tribes banded together to defend the territory beneath the Temple of the Ascended. They were no match for the invaders in size or skill, and the battle was all but lost when Rammus entered the fray. Each side was so shocked to see the elusive creature that fighting halted him completely as they watched him roll between them. As Rammus passed the towering temple, the foundations of the building shook, and enormous stone blocks toppled onto the invading army, crushing many of its warriors. Now outnumbered, the army retreated to elated cheers from the Shirimans. While many swear Rammus saved the town out of love for Shirima, others argue he was merely defending the territory in which his favourite cactus flowers grew. At least one tribesman claims Rammus was simply sleep-rolling and had no intention of taking down a temple.
Imagine just fucking rolling while he's sleeping. It's like, yeah, fuck it, I'll just stop a war, in my dream. And then it's like he actually stops a war in real life. Guy was probably high out of his mind or some shit. It's like, yeah, bro. I wish they would add like a high skin for Rammus with voice lines of him being high. It's like, yeah, rolling, brother.
Whatever the truth, stories of Rammus are treasured by people of Shirima.
They obviously won't do that.
Any Shiriman child can list a dozen theories on the question of his origin, half of which they likely invented on the spot. Tales of the armadillo have only increased with the rise of ancient Shirima, as they did just before its fall, giving way to a belief that his presence heralds darker times to come. But how can such a benevolent Epicurean soul herald an age of destruction?
This is the type of stories I hate the most, because as the reader, you still don't know anything about Rammus. Like, you don't know his perspective on anything, right? It's like you just know what is being told about him, right? It's like, I get it, like some champions should have that, but God, I hate those stories. It's like, I want to know the character kind of thing. And so this is what it is. I'm not blaming Targran for this, right? It's just like, that's the story that was given, and that's all it is. But it's like, I would rather have like an origin story, how he came to be, what his thoughts are, what he's doing, shit like that, like why he's doing what he's doing. But yeah, okay, well, that's that. Anyways, moving on to the next one.